Thanks, Philip, and thank you for joining us today. Hope you're having a great weekend. My goal of the show is to interview our community leaders that help make Putnam County a great place to live, work, and raise their families. Today's show is about one of our great nonprofits in Putnam County, Habitat for Humanity. And my guests today are the local icons for Habitat, Miss Pam Ealey and Miss Melissa Parks. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for being on the show.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you for what you do for Habitat. For our listeners out there that may not understand what Habitat is, Pam, you don't give away homes.
No, we don't. And what really struck me when you talk about your show and how a great place to live, that's what we strive for, is for these families to have a great place to live in Putnam County and not struggle and all. But no, they buy the home, it's an affordable mortgage, and that money comes back to help us continue building homes. So the only thing we give away is an opportunity to change their lives.
And that is great. It's absolutely a great program. Goes back to 1995, I think. You and I were reminiscing a little bit. I tend to do that every time I see you because I remember the first houses, and when I was 911 director, assigning those addresses. Take us kind of from the beginning of how you got into Habitat and how Habitat began.
Yes, next year's our 25th year,
Wow.
so very exciting. Myself, personally, I've been involved since 2001. I spent 20 years in radio and was looking for something to do and decided I've always liked Habitat. I'd heard about them, and so I wanted to do their newsletter for them because I always liked doing things like that. And I started volunteering, and next thing you know, I had hepatitis, is what we call it.
Hepatitis, that's great. I hadn't heard that before.
I was on the board in 2002, and then I was hired for development in 2003. And
You've had a great career in it since.
it's been a blessing. I tell people those 20 years in radio, God was preparing me to sell Habitat.
To sell Habitat.
Instead of selling radio. So.
He knows the things we need when we need them.
That's right. It's a real blessing.
Melissa, what about you? How did you get involved?
Well, my husband and I moved here to Cookeville in 2011.
Thank goodness, got you out of Florida.
We're so happy. He took a job at Livingston Regional Hospital, and so I kicked around for almost a year looking for a job, and I guess once again I was being prepared and applied for a job with Habitat in 2012 and was hired in August. So I've been there 7 years now. And my husband jokes that it's the only place that we've lived where they say, "Oh, you're Melissa's husband."
It's turned around.
Right, it's turned around. Just because Habitat, is able to work with people from all walks of life. I get to deal with our families. I get to deal with donors and advertising and doing all the things with committees and the board members. So it's really been a great opportunity for me just to jump in the middle of Cookeville and get to meet the people who really are involved in making this a great place to live.
Happen.
Yeah.
How did Habitat start?
Well, actually, Millard Fuller is the founder. He's passed away since then. He died of a heart attack a few years ago. But he was a self-made millionaire. And he was an attorney, and he had a lot of businesses. He was making money, but he was never home. And his wife was ready to leave and threatened to leave with the kids because that's not what she signed up for. It's for him to be working all the time. And they realized they needed to rededicate their lives to Christ, and they gave away all their belongings and moved to Koinonia, which was a biracial farming community in southern Georgia.
They gave away all their belongings.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that amazing?
And went to live at Koinonia, where they met Pastor Clarence Jordan, who started Koinonia, and it was like I said, it was a biracial farming community. And in the 50s and 60s, that was not very well liked down in southern Georgia. And the ideas sprung from there. They started building houses with those residents in the community, and it just took off. He went to Africa, the country of Zaire at the time, with his family, and came back a year or two later and started Habitat for Humanity.
That's amazing. We're talking this morning with Pam Ealey and Melissa Parks with Habitat for Humanity. How did it get started in Putnam County? Do we know who the first original folks were?
Charles McCaskey.
Charles McCaskey. Wow, one of my favorite people. Charles was pastor at Cumberland Presbyterian.
Yes,
is that right?
He decided he'd been down to Georgia and really was getting hooked with Habitat, and he put a notice in the paper and bought some cookies and Cokes and had over 100 people at the first meeting.
Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. It's a great story of how somebody with a vision and willingness just to step out in faith and you know, just make that step, how, you know, you can look at that and now look back and see all the people and all the lives that have been
He's
touched in
touched.
this 25 years.
It's amazing. Talk a little bit about how these people go about getting a Habitat home and the process they have to go through. It's not just come in and sign a piece of paper and walk out. I mean, they have a lot of sweat equity, I think you call it, put into these homes, right?
Yeah, they definitely do. Well, I'll tell you, we both say this a lot. So, but one of the very first things that our families need to do is have a willingness to partner with Habitat, because it is a process. And Lynette Hill, who's our family services director, will tell folks it's like taking on an extra job, a second job. So they have to be willing to partner with us. They have to have a source of income because they're going to have a mortgage that they need to pay. And that source of income doesn't necessarily mean they have to work. It could be Social Security or something like that, but a regular source of income. They have to be living in some kind of substandard housing or be what we call cost burdened, which means they're paying more than 30% of their income for their housing. And then they also, my brain just, Pam just clicked on the last
Or they
one.
could be in overcrowded conditions.
Or in an overcrowded condition.
But there's
yeah.
a lot of, and sadly, there's a lot of substandard housing that people just don't see. The
Right.
average person doesn't realize what families are having to live
Kind of
in.
have our blinders on sometimes we walk down the road. Don't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just approved a family where they were paying over 50% of their income for housing.
Wow.
And that's a burden that people should not be under. You know, you should not have to decide you're not going to buy medicine or you're not going to eat, you know, have groceries or whatever so that you can make a rent payment or
Right.
something like that. So they do, when they come in, you know, they're talked to, and what we want to do is make this family successful in their house. I know a lot of people probably wish somebody had sat down with them and explained them what buying a house really entailed.
Absolutely.
You know, there's a lot of things that go into being a homeowner that you don't think of.
Trial by fire sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, property taxes, having to make slight little repairs. You can't call the plumber just because the flapper needs to be replaced. So we try to help them know that. We have them write a will because now they're going to have a piece of real property that they can pass on to their families.
Never know what might happen.
Yeah, and they come in, they volunteer at the Restore. So they're really involved in this process.
I met some of the families coming to your ribbon cuttings, and the looks on their faces just says it all. It's got to be so rewarding. You're listening. Welcome back to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, County Mayor Randy Porter. Hope you're having a great weekend. My guests today are Pam Ealey and Melissa Parks from Habitat for Humanity. We're talking about all the great things that have been happening with Habitat. Been around for several years. I think it started in '95, so we've
Yes.
got an anniversary coming up. You started kind of a new phase in Habitat with your own store. Can you tell us about the Restore and how that operates?
Yeah, we opened that in 2003, so we've been around 16 years. And it started actually in Canada, the idea did. Having leftover building materials, what can we do with it? And now there's, I think, 850 some odd stores across the
Wow.
country. So it's a major fundraising for us. We're not in a high retail location, so it's hard to find us. But once they find us, they love us. The shoppers do. But the donations are what's so important. We accept furniture, leftover building materials. You know, if you're remodeling, what do you do with the cabinets you took down,
Right.
or the doors or the windows? We take all that. We take appliances as long as they're working. We don't really want your old appliances that don't work.
No.
And then, of course, we have some home accessories and dishes and things like that. But really, the hardware and the building materials and furniture is our best sellers. And we're open Wednesday through Saturday right now, 10 to 5. And we pick up large donations. We operate a truck. So.
That is what is so amazing. We actually last year had called and had some stuff, and I was going to load it up on the trailer and bring it in to you. And when we called in, they said, "Oh, we'll come and get it." That's great. They came out in the truck. They had their little two-wheelers and stuff, and they got the stuff and they loaded it up and didn't have to do anything. So if you're out there and you've got building materials, cabinets, all kinds of things that you'd like to donate to Habitat, give Pam and them a call.
Yes.
What's the phone number, Pam?
It's 528-1709, and we really feel, we're keeping a lot of things out of the landfill, which is so important for the
That
community.
is a positive. That's a
And then
very
people that like to, what's it called, repurpose.
Yes.
They'll find things and make something new out of it. I mean, there's a lot, people love to shop there. because of
Absolutely, it's a great
what
store.
they can
And
find. And
we're-
we're close to campus, we're on East 15th
East 15th Street, right off of
So,
Washington
yeah.
Avenue. And it's, anytime that, we're kind of a throwaway society anymore. So all this stuff that you can repurpose and folks can use in new homes and stuff, it's
Yes.
all a benefit.
And then we get businesses that give us inventory. Maybe they've got new inventory and they need to get rid of their old, and instead of just selling it for, a little pennies, they can donate it to us, and hopefully it'll help them in their tax
They get the
situation.
tax write-off, and it benefits a family and their home.
Yes, it
It's
does.
a win-win for everyone. You started back in 2014, and I've been amazed at how fast this project's moved over in the West End. Got some property that I think you bought from Tennessee Tech.
Yes, the
And-
foundation.
and-
And it was generating $80 in property
Property
tax
taxes.
every year.
Wow. That was a big check for Tech.
Yes,
to
it
bring
was.
in, wasn't it?
We kept the county going and the city with
That
that.
is great. It is a great project, though. I've just been amazed at the new homes that are being built in there. Tell us about the project and how it's going and the homes that have been built.
Well, we're on our 10th or 11th home in the neighborhood, and eventually it'll be 50. We've not finished all the development. We have room for, I think, about 12 more lots, or 12 more homes. But it's just a great piece of property. It's been costly to develop, I'll admit that. It wasn't ideal, that's why we were able to get it, I guess.
At a cheap
because-
price.
Yes, but the history behind it's pretty interesting, because it was in the Jerry Whitson family.
Mhm.
And so it was Carolyn Whitson Hester, who the nursing building's named after, her family. They donated it to Tennessee Tech, and then we
Wow.
purchased it from the foundation. But we're very pleased with how the homes are coming along. The families love it out there. We're truly building. I mean, every home we've built has been wonderful, but this is our largest by far, since it'll be 50 homes. And it's building a community. I mean, there's so many young kids that are now best friends and going to school together, and it's just amazing to see what's going on. But eventually, our next phase will be our final phase, the fourth one, and that will add about 30 homes, or 30 building lots. So that's when you'll really see a big difference in the property. But
What's an awesome project. I remember when you had the ribbon cutting
Yes.
for the property, and I looked and I thought, how are they going to build on this? And it's right across from West End Park. It's a
Yes.
great little quiet neighborhood back in there. Kind of the forgotten area, I guess,
Yeah.
over the years. And what you've been able to do with it, it's amazing. I mean, it rejuvenated that section of town, and you've got all these nice new homes and these happy families that have come in. Kudos to Habitat for all that you do. And I want to throw a shout out, and I know you do too, Joe Albright, that we miss
Oh, yes.
dearly.
Yes,
Jay Albright's dad, Connie Albright's husband that passed away, was big into Habitat, and he
Yes.
loved that West End
he
project.
did.
and
He really did. He saw the vision.
He did, and that's how that looking out in the future, to be able to see that vision, you've done an amazing job. You're expanding again, though, into Overton County.
Yes, we are.
Tell us about that.
We are now officially called Upper Cumberland Habitat for Humanity. We have more expansion plans, but Overton did have a habitat.
Mhm.
Several years ago, they approached us about, it's hard on a smaller rural habitat with all the mortgage regulations, being all volunteer, and we all know as volunteers, it takes, 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people.
Right.
And you get worn out. But they built 5 homes in the community, but they were ready to they were just tired. So they approached us and we said, well, we had looked at it expanding. So we took over their assets, and then we said, once we get West End going, then we'll come back and start working in Putnam, in Overton County. And so, we took a year or so and we built some volunteers. Now we have an AmeriCorps member who's working up there full time as a
That's great.
community outreach, and we purchased our first lot up there just in the past couple of weeks, and we're doing, our senior repair program up there. But we need more volunteers because we have limited staff, and Habitat's huge. I mean, all we have to do, we have to have volunteers
Have to have
for every
volunteers.
bit of our work.
Absolutely.
And so we definitely are working to build more volunteers in Overton County right now.
Melissa, are you keeping the roads hot going from Cookville to Livingston?
Yeah, well, we're just so blessed to have somebody who can be there right now, full-time. So that's made it a whole lot easier on the rest of us.
Any plans to go further than Overton County?
Yes, there is. I'm not at liberty to say, but yes, we are. That's why we went on and changed our name.
That's supposed to be my kind of thing. You know, everybody says, well, Randy, what's the new project coming in town? Well, I can't tell you. So you're going to keep the secret. It's on the other
That's
foot
right.
now. That's great.
But if you, with those that have been to our office years ago at the end of the hall, when you come in, we put the Habitat logo on the wall.
Yes.
But we didn't put Putnam County because that's always been our vision that eventually we'll be more than Putnam. So not that we don't love Putnam, but the need is out there, especially like at Overton. I think
Yeah.
the need is much greater for these senior repairs than, I mean, there's some affordable housing issues here, but not like there is in Putnam.
I agree. Well, you've got the name for it, so now you've
Where's
got 12 more counties to expand
The
into.
people perish except for vision.
That's
you
right.
know? We've got vision.
You're listed today in Putnam County on News Talk 107.7 and 1400 The Hub. I'm County Mayor Randy Porter, your host. Coming up after the break, more with Pam Ealey and Melissa Parks. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, County Mayor Randy Porter. I hope you're having a great weekend. My guests today are Pam Ealey and Melissa Parks from Habitat. And we've got a great event, one of my favorites coming up. Anytime we have something on the square is one of my favorite events, but this is really one I was talking about earlier, to have an event around the square where I can walk out of my office, I can eat for 2 hours of all these great foods and get to see everybody and talk. I think our listeners probably know what I'm talking about. Cooking on the Square. It's become one of the premier events that we have in Cookville. Pam, it goes back several years.
Yes,
give
it
us
does.
give us the history of how that started.
Well, John Clemens, who's a retired Cookville firefighter, he's retired now, he wasn't at the time. He loved to eat, you know, those firemen, they cook and eat all the time.
Great meals.
And one of his best friends was Don Calcote, who at the time owned Bookworks, and everybody knows Don from, then he went to the bank, and he's retired, well, semi-retired, and lives down on the Gulf Coast in Alabama. And he, of course, spent his free time throwing bowls. He was a ceramic artist. And so the two of them had an idea, because John was on our board at the Habitat board, and they asked, you know, an idea for fundraising. And John said, why don't we have a Cajun event? And it just grew from there. And their original thought was, you know, it's kind of like a soup line. You have your bowl and you're
Yeah.
asking for food. And,
Right.
it took off from there, and 23 years later, we're about to have another one.
It doesn't
Yeah.
seem possible that it's been 23 years.
Yeah, I've just been here for the last 7, and I remember the first year we moved here, everybody said, oh, you have to go to Cooking on the Square, you have to go. And so I wasn't working, so I got up that morning and drove there, and it was raining cats and dogs,
Not
and
always
it was
had the best
cold.
weather for it, but it doesn't seem to matter.
No.
Well, that was the
Folks still
last
come.
time that we really had awful weather. We've had
Was that
some
the year we
drizzles.
went to Maddox Hardware?
Yes.
Yeah, that
yes.
was the hard rain. And I remember
Yes.
standing there watching, I was crying, just watching people with their umbrellas and ponchos. They were still out there, and I'm like,
Still out there eating
Yeah.
and
Amazing.
having a good time.
Yeah.
yeah.
Melissa, that's got to be a major thing to try to coordinate and get. I mean, you've got all these people that are coming and they're cooking and they've got tents and they've got all these things.
There's a lot of moving parts, definitely. But we have a fabulous committee that's co-chaired by Casey Overstreet and Amanda Wiggin. And if you know those two women,
Oh, wow.
you know that they are on the ball, and they are full of great ideas and enthusiasm. And they have really poured their heart and soul into making this event special and making this event where we focus on the whole reason we're there. And we call it the Party with Purpose, that we're there to build a house.
Right.
That's why we're there. And it's fun, and we get to see our friends, and we get to eat good food and all of that. But at the end of the day, we are so grateful that we have been able to build 11 homes through Cooking on the Square, and we've started number 12.
That's awesome.
It is amazing, and we were able to start number 12 because we've had the best year ever with sponsors.
It's,
so many businesses and individuals and people coming forward and saying, yes, we want to be part of this.
we live in such a great community, don't
We do. A generous community.
So Cooking on the Square, if you haven't been, please come next Friday.
Yes.
You have all these organizations, and some of them are businesses, some of them are nonprofits,
Families.
families, churches. I mean, it's wide open. They come in and set up their little tents, and they cook.
Yeah.
And all kinds of Cajun food.
Primarily.
Yes, primarily. I mean,
Gumbo,
there's,
jambalaya.
I tell them if they can't cook Cajun food, at least give it a Cajun name.
yeah,
Like-
call it Cajun.
Like New Orleans chicken soup.
Yeah.
You know? So,
And so you buy your ticket, you get a bowl
beautiful
Yes,
bowl.
and
to
that's
take
the
home.
biggest challenge is the bowl. I mean, the bowls.
Yeah,
Because you can't just make those in half an hour or something. I mean, there's a lot of sweat, but a lot of talent put into every single bowl.
it's amazing. You have a huge table and tent there, you pick your bowl, and then you just walk and eat and eat and eat and eat. And it's become the premier social event.
It is.
Because I see people at this event that I may not have saw since the last one.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, everybody's walking around, they're having a great time, they're eating.
They're getting to see the guy who does their eyes, examines their eyes, and the guy over there who, you know, in Rotary with them, and it's just an amazing time.
It is. If someone wants tickets, how do they get those?
Well, through Wednesday, they'll be available at our Habitat Restore. On Wednesday's the only day we'll be available because we're not open Monday, Tuesday. They could still get there today though, till 5 o'clock. We're
Okay.
open Saturday till 5. And then most local banks have them. But after Wednesday, you'll just have to get them at the gate and they'll be 25.
But you can still do that at the
Yes,
gate.
definitely.
Buy them early, they're 20.
20, right.
And buy them at the gate, they're 25.
It's still you're still helping a family build their affordable home.
You're making
And I
a
tell
donation.
people, even if you're not sure you can make it that day, buy a ticket
Still
anyway.
buy a ticket, yeah.
Buy a ticket anyway, because you
Yes.
know you
It's
want to
tax
support
deductible, it's,
Habitat.
and you're helping our community. In the last minute that we got or so, I want you to talk about your senior thing that you're doing also, that I don't think we've had a chance to talk about
Well,
yet.
back in the recession, some habitats across the country started getting asked by donors and all, why are you trying to build a house when there's people losing their homes and so forth? And so some habitats started doing repair work and rehabbing and things like that. And our board a few years ago just had the vote and decided that seniors, the population is growing older very quickly, as we know. I can't remember what the fact, like 10,000 baby boomers turn 60 every day or something like that. But
It's
anyway,
a large number.
yeah, it is. It's huge. And, seniors, a lot of them are a lot less limited on income. Maybe they've lost their spouse. Maybe they're disabled in some capacity. And they can't maintain their home. And at the end of the day, we want them in their home as long as possible.
Right.
It saves everyone funds
It
if they're
does.
not having to go into another facility. So that's what we have is Neighbor to Neighbor. It's an affordable program where they can afford to repair their home.
Mhm.
But we also have grants that support it, and they may not have to pay anything. But we offer both, the grant funding, we have deadlines, and so we're doing a lot of that right now where we've replaced roofs, windows, HVACs, everything, and grab bars, ADA toilets, ramps.
You do it all.
And they don't have a cost. But when that funding runs out, we will have an opportunity for them to do it at, an affordable price.
So
That-
if someone's interested in the program, interested in anything about Habitat, they can call you, go to your website?
Yes, uchabitat.org, or call us at 528-1711, or drop by and see us. We're open to the public Tuesday through Friday, and but there's a lot of information on our website.
And if you want to volunteer with us, we'd love to talk to
Yes.
you too.
Folks, come out and help Habitat, volunteer, donate, Cooking on the Square next Friday, starting at 11. It's a great event. And I want to say to both of y'all, thank you for what you do. You make our community a better place to live, and I think that's what it's all about, is leaving it better than we found it.
Yes,
And both of you
thank
do a
you.
great job, and thank you for being on the show, and thank you for what you do. Pam Ealey and Melissa Parks with Habitat for Humanity. It's now time for What's Happening, the part of the show where I keep you informed on some of the special events going on in our county. Thursday, October the 24th at 5:30 p.m., it's Trunk or Treat at the Cumberland Auto on Interstate Drive. We're We're going to have bounce houses, costume contests, and lots of candy for the kids. As we just been talking, Friday, October the 25th from 11 to 1:30, Cooking on the Square, sponsored by Habitat for Humanity. This is one of the great events we have around our historic square, so please come out and support Habitat. Saturday, October the 26th at 10 a.m., it's the Baxter Harvest Festival, sponsored by the Friends of the Baxter Depot. It'll be a great day in Baxter with all kinds of vendors, car shows, and food. Wednesday, October the 30th from 6 to 8, it's Trunk or Treat at Prescott Middle School. This one's sponsored by Life Church, free candy and fun for the kids. And then Thursday, October the 31st, Halloween from 4 to 6, Cookville Treat Trail. It's going to be in Dogwood Park, sponsored by the Cookville Leisure Services. Lots of treats and fun for the kids. Saturday, November the 2nd from 9 to noon, it's the 2019 Walk to End Alzheimer's at A.B. Trace School. Come out and help fund research to find a cure for this terrible disease. And finally, Friday, November the 8th at 6 p.m., it's Married Couples Date Night, sponsored by the River Community Church. Great night of food, laughter, and encouragement. That's what's happening. For more details on any of these events, you can go to my website at randyporter.org. And that's our show for today, folks. I want to thank my guest again, Pam Ealey and Melissa Parks, for being here. Hope you join us every Saturday morning at 10:30 and Sunday at 2 for Today in Putnam County on News Talk 107.7 and 1400 The Hub. You can also download the WHUB app and listen to us on your cell phone. As always, thank you, Brent Fleshman, for producing my show each week. I'm County Mayor Randy Porter. Hope you can have a great rest of your weekend, and may God continue to bless our great county.